Chapter 6, Mishnah 8. The Kohen Gadol was not allowed to begin the next part of the service until the Azazel goat had reached the cliff, which was far from Jerusalem, 12 mil. The Mishnah explains how he knew that the time had arrived. They said to the Kohen Gadol, "The goat has reached the cliff in the wilderness." And how did they know that the goat had reached the cliff in the wilderness? They set up platforms at intervals between Jerusalem and the cliff, with a watchman on each platform holding a flag. And when the goat reached the cliff, they waved flags. That is, the watchman closest to the cliff waved his flag, and upon seeing this, the next watchman waved his flag, and so on, until the watchman closest to Jerusalem waved his flag. And in this way they knew in the temple that the goat had reached the cliff in the wilderness. Rabbi Yehuda, however, holds that the Kohen Gadol did not have to wait until the goat reached the cliff, but only until it reached the beginning of the wilderness, which was merely 3 mil away from Jerusalem. In his opinion, therefore, they had an easier way of determining when the goat had arrived. Rabbi Yehuda said, but they had an excellent sign by which to know that the goat had arrived. From Jerusalem to the area of the goat's cliff, i.e. the beginning of the wilderness, there was a distance of 3 mil. They, i.e. the people who first escorted the man and the Azazel out of the temple, walked 1 mil from Jerusalem to the first hut, and they returned 1 mil. And then they, i.e. the people in the temple, waited as long as it takes to walk 1 mil. And thus they knew that the goat had reached the beginning of the wilderness, since enough time had passed for the man and the goat to have walked 3 mil. Another Tana teaches that they used yet another system. Rabbi Ishmael says, but they had another sign by which to know that the goat had arrived. A red string was tied above the entrance to the sanctuary building, and when the goat reached the wilderness, the string turned white. As it's stated in Isaiah chapter 1, verse 18, if your sins will be like a red thread, they will turn white like snow.